Hey guys, what's going on? So in this one, we're going to be covering the Atavaka guild boss for P5X Global version 2.5. This is week 2 of the guild bosses. And again, Queen is going to be snatching Yui's chain here and stealing her boss from her. So I'm going to be running Vino 1, Wonder 2, Cord 3, Queen 4 with Futaba as Navigator. And then Wonder is going to be running Machina with Bishamonten, Dionysus, and the highest level persona that you're not using on the other side. For me, that's Yanosik. And I will put these slot-ins on the screen, but the slot-ins for this one are a little bit more difficult because he does resist a couple of the elements that I would suggest normally. So obviously, Yui is a fine backup option here. This is meant to be her boss, so she really should be kind of the main feature. Queen tends to just do better. Kind of the same reason people are having more success on the other side with like Summer Closer than Fox in some cases. A lot of people were telling me it's just because follow-up units, it's really hard, especially on this type of boss, to like consistently plan around a follow-up unit when you really don't have any control of when the weakened phase is going to start. But obviously, if you have Yui and you don't have Queen, that's like the obvious slot in. If you don't have Cord, then I think Leon fits here perfectly fine. And if you don't have Futaba, then you could either use Phoebe or Wind or whoever you have available here that you didn't use on the other side. But yeah, this one's kind of straightforward. We've kind of had this boss before. My rotation could be a little bit different than yours only because my Queen is A1. But really, if you're struggling to finish off the boss, like as soon as I'm finishing off the boss, you can really just add an extra turn of like stalling to do a little bit more damage. You really just want to pick up the rotation where I'm using it on my like turn 3, 4, and 5 for me, which is like the 2 weakened phase turns and the turn before the weakened phase. But obviously, if you have any questions on any of that, just let me know down in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer whatever I can for you. And then getting into the personas, we will be using Imperial Purge and Rakunda with Bishamonten, so if you have to add Rakunda, I would suggest doing so. But you can work with just Imperial Purge if you don't want to do that. As for Dionysus, Rebellion Revolution, kind of the classic Dionysus stuff. As for card sets, my Queen is running Awareness and Truth, and then Cord will be running Trust and Prosperity. Vino is running Departure and Control, and Futaba is running Resolve and Labor. But yeah, I think that kind of covers everything. If you have any questions, like I said, leave them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer whatever I can for you. Otherwise, I think we're ready to get into it, so I will see you on the other side. Alright, so let's get into it here. We're going to start with Diving Ray. And Atavaka's gimmick is kind of the mark stacks. When he gets hit with an element, he gets a mark of that element. When he gets 3 marks to that element, he summons an ad. And he can do that up to 2 times. When the ads are defeated, whatever like the element of the mark stacks were that summon the ad, you get a damage bonus to that element, basically. So if for this team it would be Nuke, for a Yui team it would probably be Electric, etc. So really one of our only goals in the pre-weakened phase here is to summon the 2 ads before we get into the weakened phase, so we have that damage bonus going into our big scoring turns, which is why I'm going to use Imperial Purge. And then Cord doesn't really matter, we're just kind of stalling with Cord, so we'll just use Distortion. Her marks are not going to get in the way of the nuke. We're doing way more instances of nuke damage, so she really doesn't get in the way. And if you don't have Cord's 5-star, you won't be able to highlight here. Again, not a big deal. We're really just trying to like get nuke stacks for the marks out. And nothing we're doing right now really matters anyway. Like I said, in these weakened phase fights, it's really just the last 3 turns. So like if it takes you 20 turns to get to where I get to on turn 3, that's perfectly fine, especially if your Queen is lower awareness. You may need an extra turn to do damage on Atavaka, which is perfectly fine. If you pair up your last 3 turns and my last 3 turns, or basically the turn you're going to defeat Atavaka and the turn I'm going to defeat Atavaka, it doesn't matter how many turns it takes either of us to get there. That's like the turn you need to sync up the rotation to. Anything before that, just do what you have to do to get him low enough to get to the turn where you can defeat him, and then you can kind of start following the guide kind of from there. So I'm going to use Vino's highlight again. It does not matter if you can't use it. As long as we end up in the same spot on the turn you're able to defeat him, to set up our kind of 3-turn rotation to do as much damage as we can in the 2 weakened phase turns. So I'll go ahead and use Sanction Drift. Hopefully that made sense. If it doesn't make sense, obviously just drop comments below and I'll try and explain a little bit better. But now Vino can use Bullseye Bomber. Wonder, I'm just going to use Imperial Purge again. Probably don't need to, but I just want to like guarantee I get the stacks. So it just helps kind of planning a little bit. Then I'll use Distortion again. And then I'm going to go ahead and use the skill 3 here. Probably don't need to. I could probably get away with 2 Sanction Drifts, but just to like ensure I know next turn I will be able to defeat him with a Sanction Drift, I'll go ahead and use that skill 3. If you want to use the skill 3 every time, like I said, to try and match up with me, that's fine. Or if you want to take an extra turn and only use the Sanction Drifts, I think that's also fine. And so now this is the turn where you'd want to start following kind of what I'm doing, right? I know I'm going to defeat Atavaka, so whenever you get to that point, you can start following the guide right here. The only thing that might be different is which of the 2 skills your Vino is on. For me, it's on Diving Ray. If it takes you an extra turn, it'll be Bullseye Bomber. It makes no difference. So I will use Diving Ray. And now, because we are on this turn before the weaken phase, we can start kind of our 3-turn buff rotation. So for us, that includes using Wonder's Highlight, and then using Rebellion on Queen. And then we can use Unison Notes on Queen. And now Queen can go ahead and use Sanction Drift, and we will enter the weaken phase. And then we will go ahead and use Futaba's skill 1. I know some people were saying they were getting better results with the skill 2. If that's the case for you, go ahead and use the skill 2 instead. But for me, skill 1 was doing more. I tried it both ways. There must be something with like a weapon or the way one of my units is built where this is better for me. But I know some people were getting like significantly better scores on the Siryu SOS boss with the skill 2. So maybe mix and match and test. But for me, this was working better, so that's what I'm going to stick with. And then I'll go ahead and use Bullseye Bomber. And then Wonder, we can swap to Bishamonten. I'll use Rakunda to get these Tower Purification stacks on. Cord can use Distortion, because we want to save Catchy Hook for when Atavaka has Virus next turn. And now we can use Cord's Highlight on Queen. We can Crash Out. And we can use Queen's skill 3. And now Futaba's back up again, so we'll use her skill 3 on Queen. Get the nuke weakness implanted on Atavaka. And then Vino can use Diving Ray. Wonder can swap to Dionysus. I'm going to use Revolution. There may be like a debuff, like if you want to use a Spike with a Narcissus to get the damage up. If you want to bring Vishnu, if you didn't bring him on the other side. There may be something better to use here. Revolution was just the most consistent for me. But I feel like there could be some kind of debuff or something that you could bring that may do better on this last turn. I just wasn't sure, so I kind of defaulted to like the safe option with just like the crit buffing. But now I'll go ahead and use Catchy Hook here. And then Queen can use her own Highlight. And then we can finish off with a skill 3. And pretty much like a flat 50. So this is definitely my record for my Queen. We have like an A5 Queen or something in our guild, so that's why you'll see my like ranking percentage is not what it should be with the 50. But even if you're A0, it'll probably be a little bit less than my Queen at A1. But the rotation is identical. It's just a matter of like how many turns it takes you to get to that kind of 3-turn like golden window of like starting your buff rotation, right? But yeah, hopefully you guys found some use in this. I know everyone's probably sick about Atavaka, but hopefully when Haru comes out next week, we get like a new boss that we like haven't really had before. That's what I'm hoping for, fingers crossed. But yeah, if you have any questions, like I said, leave them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer whatever I can for you. Otherwise, I appreciate you guys watching. As always, I will see you on the next one, and have a good one.